Hi everyone, it's Eliana and I wanted to share with you a card that I made using the June 2015 card kit from Simon Says Stamps. And I'm going to be using my MISTI to stamp a border on the edge of the card, and I am using the angled banner, if that's what that is, that comes in the stamp set in the kit, and that stamp set is called Happy and Smile. It's a really cute stamp set. I'm using this piece of transparency that has a grid printed on it. It's available on my website, mysweetpetunia.com, and it's a free download. You could take this PDF to your local print store and have them print it on a piece of transparency, and you can trim it out. You can get 2 on 1 page. And it's the same size as an A2 card front. So you could use it to center your greetings. There are 2 bold lines that go down the middle, both vertical and horizontal, that tell you where the middle is. So I'm just using that as a guide to count the grid squares on the left and right side of that line to tell me if that banner is centered. And I'm going to use an imaging sheet while I'm making this card, simply because the angle on that stamp set was really throwing me off, and it just ensures that you're going to get everything perfect. I masked off part of the card so that I wouldn't get ink onto the back portion, and you're going to see me mess up with when I fold the card in half. And so I've stamped my first color, which is the Paper Tray Ink Orange Zest. And I need to figure out how I'm going to stamp on the card when I can't tuck the imaging sheet into the corner. And so I fold the card and then I place it onto my mat, and then I'm realizing that the Post-it note is sticking to the grid paper on the MISTI. And so I flip it underneath so that it doesn't get caught. I'm scoring it so that I can have the card sit a little bit flatter. I've tucked the imaging sheet into the corner, and I'm going to use the magnets to hold it in place. And what I'm going to do is slide my card front down so that the next stamp is going to butt up right up against that. And see, I can't use the corner to help because it's just hanging off the card. And did you catch the magnets that just kind of went together by themselves? You have to be very careful with those magnets. And if they smack together, they could break. So you want to be careful with those. And now I'm going to stamp the bottom portion of the card, which will be much easier because it will sit in the corner. And I'm just going to, well, the imaging sheet will sit in the corner. And so I'm just moving my card front up this time, and I'm stamping with the next color, which is the Pure Poppy. The yellow color was Summer Sunrise, and I don't think that the red is dark enough, and so I double stamp it. And now we're going to do the same thing on the other side. It's going to be similar, that you have to adjust your imaging sheet and use something to hold it down while you figure it out. And so I'm just using the masking tape to hold the card closed, and I'll be stamping the middle color first, and that is going to be, what color is that? That is the Blueberry Sky from Paper Tray. And I really like these ink pads that they have. They're just really easy to use with the lid of the MISTI, and they always stamp nice and clear. And now to do the same thing all the way up and down, and this one is pretty easy. It's the last one that's kind of a little bit tricky. And this color is going to be the Royal Velvet. No, I'm sorry, it was the New Leaf at the top of the card. And then the Royal Velvet is going on the bottom, and so you're going to tuck the imaging sheet into the corner, use the magnets to hold it down, or you can use a piece of washi, and you're just going to line things up, and then keep your cardstock in place while you stamp the last color. And because it didn't stamp all the way to the edge, which would have been fine, but I wanted to use, I wanted to do something different with this card. And so I end up trimming the edges just to get rid of the white that you see. But otherwise, it's the same distance all the way down the card. It's still pretty nice looking. And so, but for the purpose of this card, I'm just going to trim it. If you wanted to do more colors, what you could do is you could overlap the colors and then you create different shades by combining the inks. And so that might be pretty neat. And you would just have more diagonal lines across the colors, if that makes sense. And now I'm going to take some black cardstock and trim it down so that it covers up the middle of the card. And I'm going to take one of the pattern papers that comes in the kit. I'm going to measure and just trim that down so that there is just a tiny bit of black on both sides. And the reason why I did that is because of the green in the corner. I just wanted it to have something in between the green stamp in the corner and the green cardstock. And I cut a lot of this video out because I struggled a lot with that little die cut that you see right there. I cut it out of foam, but I had so much trouble with one of the foam pieces that it was just hard to get it onto the front of the card correctly. So I end up using just paper. What I'm doing now is I'm taking one of the sentiments out of the Big Birthday Wishes from the previous month's card kit, and I've stamped it onto the grid paper. And it doesn't really matter if it's straight or not, because I take the negative part of the die cut and I just line it up with the impression I made onto the cardstock, so then I can center it that way. I'm trying to figure out where I want the sentiment, if I want to overlap the die cut, but I decided to just center it. And I'm just using the magnet on one side, and I'm going to go ahead and use a piece of post-it tape just to adhere the other end down. I'm going to use my embossing buddy to take away any static or any oil that's from my fingers off, and I'm going to stamp it in white ink, and I'm going to use the Fresh Snow from Paper Tray, and I stamp it a couple of times, but I really don't like the way it looks. It's just not bright enough. And I know I'm going to use the white powder, but I just wanted to make sure that if I didn't get the powder in the right spot, that it was still going to be white enough underneath that you couldn't tell. I end up stamping it twice with the snow, the Fresh Snow, but I end up going for my Memories pigment ink pad in the Unicorn White, and that one stamped really nice and bright, and I was really happy with that one. I'm going to take the white embossing powder, and I'm going to coat that with the powder and then heat it up with my heat gun. And because I trimmed a little bit of the card front, I can let that little banner hang off the edge of my card, just because I trimmed down about 1/8 of an inch from each side when I cut off the white, so I could put that banner just a little bit off the card. And I'm just taking off any of the stray embossing powder before I heat it. It will be really noticeable since it's black, so I wanted to make sure all of the powder is off. And once I get that straightened out, I go ahead and start assembling my card. And I'm just taking some foam tape, and I'm going to hand deliver this card, so I'm not worried about it crushing too much. And so I'm just using the tape so that it gives a little dimension to the card, and I'm just going to line it up. And I don't really want to trim it off the bottom, before I attach it, because if it's going to be off a little bit and I go to trim it, it'll be really hard to trim off that little sliver. So I just figured I will use my blade later. And I'm only removing part of the tape so that if I have to adjust it, I'm not ripping too much of my card off. And once I get it where I want it, I could reach under and just pull the backing off that foam tape really easy. So you just kind of pull it there and it's done. And now I could flip it over, and I use my X-Acto knife, my craft blade, to just trim that off. And you don't need to push very hard, you just need to do it lightly, and that way your craft knife won't travel. If you press too hard, it might go off to the side. Now I'm going to take the die cuts that I cut from the kit, and I'm just going to layer 4 of them, one on top of the other, and I'm just using this dot adhesive. I got tired of using the liquid adhesive, and I thought I'd give this a try and just stack them up. And what I found is that I like the liquid adhesive way better, but for the meantime I'm just going to give this a try. And it is the regular adhesive. I'm just using, I just put a refill in it, so that's why the case is white. And here is the finished card. I end up using some foam to mount the banner, and I just used some enamel dots. And thanks for watching, and please be sure to go by mysweetpetunia.com to check out the new website. Have a great day.